All right, we are back. What is going on, Colts Nation? And welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Guys, week 9, the Indianapolis Colts travel to Pittsburgh to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. We want to welcome on special guest from Believe in Steelers. We have our friend Jarrett Bailey joining us today. Jarrett, thanks for hopping on, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm ready to hopefully see a losing streak come to an end. It's Halloween tomorrow at the time of recording, so that's fun. I've got an Ice Nine Kills hoodie on to be in the spirit. It's a fun. This is a good time of year. I'm gonna be decorating my house for Christmas on Saturday because I'm a nerd like that. Next few days for me are gonna be awesome.
That's awesome, man. Well, before, guys, we get into today, I just want to say this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, right now, this is going to be a close game. Right now, the spread, Jarrett, is -3 for the Indianapolis Colts, so it's very, very close right now. I don't know how you feel about that. Is that something that you expected coming into this game, or how do you feel about kind of where the spread is right now for this one?
I'm surprised it's not bigger for Indy, just considering how well they've been playing as compared to how poor the Steelers' defense is playing right now. They're last in the NFL in passing yards per game. The Colts have been doing really well offensively in terms of just putting up bunches of points. I think they have 76 points in their last 2 games, over 100 in their last 3. So surprised the spread's not a little bit bigger. That said, and I don't know why I feel this way. I felt this way about the Steelers in 2022 going into a game against the Brady Buccaneers. They were 1-4 at the time. The team stunk. And I was just like, yeah, but they're still going to win. They're going to beat Tampa. They're not going to go, 1-5, 1-6. For some reason, I have that feeling going into this game, and I'm setting myself up to be very wrong. But for some reason, I just have that gut feeling. Yeah, they shouldn't win, but they will for whatever reason. That's kind of how I feel right now.
I saw somebody, I don't know who it was, but these guys that were talking about how this game just feels like a game where everything's been going wrong defensively for the Steelers, but yet just somehow, some way, they figure it out in this one. No reason as to why. Mm-hmm. They just figure it out, and then they just somehow, some way win the game. And I was like, there's no analysis to it. It's just going to happen.
That's kind of what it is with the Steelers, man, is sometimes in their losses, I shouldn't say all their losses, because especially as of late, they're not a great team. But in the heyday of Ben and, Le'Veon and AB, there were years where they obviously went 13-3, 12-4. And sometimes it's like this for every good team. But as a Steelers fan, it felt more often that they would just lose a random game to a team they had no business losing to. And there was no rhyme or reason for it. It just happened. And again, that happens to every good team. I mean, your Colts, the Matt Ryan-led Colts beat Mahomes and the Chiefs a couple years ago. Sometimes things just happen in football. I get that. And as of late, a lot more, it feels just all right, yeah, the Steelers have lost a lot of games they had no business losing. They were 7-4 in 2023, and then they lost back-to-back games to the 2-win Cardinals and the 2-win Patriots. 2 games in 5 days, both at home. They lost them both. So stuff like that just happens with the Steelers now, and it's something that you just have to come to expect and accept as a Steelers fan at this stage of the whole Mike Tomlin thing. So it is frustrating. But then, like I said, they'll have a game that they have no business winning. No one's predicting them to win, that they'll go out and win. It's just, it's a strange team to root for and cover.
The over-under on that is 50.5. So if anyone wants to, they should hit the over.
It's weird to have a Steelers game with the over-under of 50.5. I'm not used to this.
Almost every game that the Colts have been in, they have beaten the over. So if you're a betting person, you should bet the over on this, because your offense has been pretty decent this year. I'd expect them to at least put up some points. And then obviously if the Colts keep up their streak of, maybe putting up 30 points in this matchup, then, that's a pretty fair chance of being able to hit that.
I would be very shocked if they don't score 30, or at least close to it. Again, the Steelers have given up 68 points over their last 2 weeks. They've given up 924 yards of offense in the last 2 weeks. So if for some reason, again, this is one of those weird things, this is going to be the game where like, oh man, why can't Jonathan Taylor run the ball today? This is odd. Why is Michael Pittman and Josh Downs not getting open? And like Joey Porter just has like a random great game, or Darius Slay gets an interception, just something stupid like that could very well happen. I'm not telling everybody to bank on that happening. Again, just a weird gut feeling of a Steelers fan who has been like, it's weird. Like it's like that State Farm commercial with the fisherman and the dollar. Where it's like, oh, you almost had it. Like they'll do that to you every year, and then you'll finally grasp the dollar when you don't expect to. So I do agree. Bet the over, because I think the only way that the Steelers win this game is in a shootout. The offense, has shown that they can score. They're averaging 28 points over the last 2 games. They're 11th in the NFL right now in points per game. So like the offense has actually been pretty good. It's defensively that I'm worried about. So this will go one of 2 ways. The Steelers, if they win, it'll be in a shootout. If they lose, they're getting blown off the face of the earth. It's, a 38-20 game, something of that sort, where the result's never in doubt in the favor of Indy.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's stay there, man. Let's talk about this Steelers offense real fast, because if there's any bright spot for sure, it's been this Steelers offense. Bringing in Aaron Rodgers this year and everything like that. What the Steelers have been able to do. I mean, there's been games where the Steelers have been able to put up some points, and been able to do some really good things. I mean, you're coming off back-to-back games of 25 plus that the Steelers have scored. So overall, what's been in your impressions of Aaron Rodgers, this offense, in total, just what the Steelers have done this year?
Yeah, Aaron's been awesome. And, I didn't expect him to be this good. I expected him to be good. I think a lot of the whole, oh man, Aaron Rodgers is finally done talk was a little bit weird, because even though the Jets stunk last year, he still threw 28 touchdowns and was playing well individually. But he's been like one of the few consistently good pieces of the Steelers as a whole. And right now he's got 16 touchdown passes. That's tied for the most in the post Ben Roethlisberger era in a season. And we're only, 8 games in. So that tells you about the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh the last few years. And he's been awesome. He's been efficient. He's protected the ball well. He's thrown 5 interceptions, but 2 of those came in one game against Cincinnati. And one of them was just a weird play where like DK Metcalf had it like ripped out of his grip. So it's not like it was his fault, but he's largely protected the ball well. He's given Steelers pass catchers a chance to, just get the ball and run with it, because Pittsburgh had some offensive line issues early in the season. So it was very much just a, hey, quick 2-step and get rid of the ball. And it was working pretty well. They've really leaned into this jumbo package where they bring out Spencer Anderson as the extra offensive lineman. Wonder what they're going to do there, because Spencer Anderson, I believe, is going to be starting this week because Isaac Seumalo is injured. So I would assume they're just going to try to bring in one of their other reserves as that swing tackle role. We'll see. But they're incredibly efficient when it comes to that and utilizing it in the run game or play action passing. So I've really liked what I've seen from the offense this year. Arthur Smith deserves a lot of credit. They're a top 10 team in EPA since week 3. And even in like week one, they were tremendous offensively. Week 2, they took a little bit of a step back, but largely this season, they've been really good on offense. Certainly the best that they've looked since Ben Roethlisberger retired. And even so, probably the best offense they've had since Ben Roethlisberger's elbow injury in 2019. So this is, not just like, oh, okay, it's a, better than expected Steelers offense. No, like NFL wise, like this is a good offense. And it's been really let down by the defense, especially over the last couple of weeks where, they've put up a lot of points and still haven't come away with wins. And, that's not the formula that a lot of Steelers fans expected at all coming into the year.
Yeah, I want to actually bring up your run game here, because just looking at numbers' sake, it's not all that glamorous, at least when you're trying to compare it to, what Jonathan Taylor has done this year. I mean, your guys have had about 10 less carries than Taylor's had all year, but about 250 rushing yards less than what we're at now. And I mean, Warren, your lead back, only 2 runs this year of 20 plus yards, and only 3 touchdowns on the year from your running back, Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, I watched the Packers game last weekend, and I know that Pittsburgh for the longest time hasn't really been a running back oriented team. They like to be able to pass the ball a little bit more now recently. But I mean, how do you feel about your rushing attack this year? Do you think it's been good? Do you think it's been subpar? What do you stand on it?
I mean, it was really good in the first half last week against Green Bay, and then for some reason they just got away from it. 11 of their next 12 plays in the second half were passes for whatever reason. So that felt a little bit odd. Right now they're 10th in the NFL in EPA per rush. So that's they're a top 10 team in that regard, and when it comes to success rate, they're 5th in the NFL. So they've been really efficient in the ground game. I think at times they've gotten away from it too much. And look, sometimes that's just a matter of circumstance. Game against Cincinnati, it was a shootout going back and forth. But last week against Green Bay, they didn't have a reason to go away from it. They went into halftime leading 16-7. I would have liked to see them ride Jaylen Warren a little bit more, ride Kenneth Gainwell a little bit more, because they had success in the first half doing it. So getting away from that was a little bit suspicious to me. I would hope that if they have success with it this week, they just stick with it and try to keep the Colts offense off the field as much as possible and milk the clock and play that kind of game. But I've been pleased with it. I think that Jaylen Warren, Steelers fans will tell you for the last 3 years, Jaylen Warren's been the best running back on the team. And, they drafted Najee Harris in the first round. So obviously they were going to use him as kind of that lead back. But every time Jaylen Warren has touched the ball in the last 3 years, it's been very clear that he's the team's best running back. He's been very explosive with the ball in his hands this year. Even Kenneth Gainwell, early on in the season, people were very frustrated because it felt like they were giving Kenneth Gainwell a lot of unnecessary touches. But in the last month or so, especially when he had to step in and start against Minnesota, had 2 touchdowns, had nearly 100 yards on the ground and played pretty well. And he's done a really nice job as that number 2. So running wise, they've been doing really well. The offensive line has really done a good job of run blocking, opening up holes for Warren and Gainwell and the occasional Caleb Johnson touch. So I'm pleased with how the running game looks. I'll be intrigued to see what it looks like against a Lou Anarumo defense that, for the in large part has been really good this year. They're 11th in EPA per play, so that's not going to be an easy matchup for Pittsburgh. But in terms of what the offensive line for the Steelers has done run blocking wise, they've done a really nice job, and Warren and Gainwell have done, their jobs in terms of finding the holes and being efficient with the ball in their hands.
Gotcha. I'm kind of curious, if you were to look at this Pittsburgh offense, which you talked about, really, really efficient in a lot of ways, but if there was something that you would like to see Pittsburgh do, or maybe something that they haven't done as well as you think they should have done so far through the first 8 weeks, what would that be? What's something you're like, Pittsburgh's been good pretty much on offense, but this is the thing I wish that they would do more of, or maybe they haven't done as well as I'd hoped.
Staying ahead of schedule on early downs to avoid 3rd and long. I mean, that was kind of their downfall last week offensively, where they went 1 for 10 on 3rd down. And a lot of that was because they were consistently in, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8, somewhere in that vicinity. If they can stay on schedule offensively, they're hard to stop. And that's what Arthur Smith has done throughout his career, really. I mean, going back to Tennessee, when it was Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry, it was, all right, we're going to feed Derrick Henry on 1st down. If we can get into 2nd and short, that can set up play action, and we can, take some deep shots. Well, I mean, DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, pretty similar type builds, and, Art's using DK the same way that he used A.J. Brown in Tennessee. They're working in a lot more underneath stuff for DK to, do some yak with the ball in his hands, and that's worked out really well this year. But for the most part, those same concepts are still there for Arthur Smith, where run the ball early, hopefully set yourself up in 2nd and medium, 2nd and short to be able to utilize play action. But in the instances where you can't do that, don't beat a dead horse. Don't just run it on 1st and 2nd down, go to 3rd and 8, have an incompletion and punt. Try to, when they throw the ball on 1st down, they're incredibly efficient. So I think that just being a little bit more balanced and staying ahead of schedule on the early downs is kind of their bread and butter. When they do it, they're incredibly successful. When they fall behind and get in 3rd and long, then that tends to be where they become less efficient and where things usually get a little bit messy on both sides of the ball. So if they can have a lot of success on 1st down, 2nd down, then I think that their odds of winning go up.
Last question on your offense here. Is there any one player, any one weapon in general on your offense that you feel could have a good day against this Lou Anarumo defense that, I mean, again, the Colts are banged up a little bit in the cornerback room. Linebackers haven't always been very good at stopping the pass. I mean, Cody and I feel like we say that every week in our recap about just how bad these linebackers are in pass coverage. Is there any one weapon you look at this and you're like, I really think that this guy can really take advantage?
I think that if they utilize all three tight ends well, similar to how they did against Cincinnati. So if you look at what Darnell Washington can do, both as a run blocker and as a pass catcher, I mean, he's 6'8", 300 pounds. That's a hard guy to stop who can also move. So if they utilize him in the underneath passing game and in the red zone, they've been very successful in doing that. Jonnu Smith is very good after the catch, and that's, we haven't really seen too many intermediate shots drawn up for Jonnu Smith. It's been a lot of underneath and screen stuff where he gets the ball right away. We'll get, like a 6-yard gain out of it, but that's really been all they've used him for. I would like to see them do a little bit more with him over the middle of the field this week and try to take advantage of those issues defensively for the Colts that you pointed out. Pat Freiermuth had a really big game against Cincinnati, not so much against Green Bay. Utilize him as a field stretcher. I mean, that's what he's good at doing. He's not necessarily a great run blocker. That's why you have Darnell Washington there to serve that role. But use the big guys, utilize the middle of the field with them, and don't be afraid to push the ball downfield to your field stretchers because, the Steelers, when they are explosive, that adds a whole other element to their game and it opens up things for the run game, which is, already very good. But if they don't have to just lean on that as a whole and they become, more than one dimensional, then that's where the offense becomes really dangerous. So I'd like to see Pat Freiermuth get a little bit more involved downfield. Same thing for Jonnu Smith. And if you can utilize Darnell Washington, especially, in the low red area, that's where he's most successful. So would like to see a little bit of that.
Awesome. Well, let's move over now to this Colts offense versus this Pittsburgh defense. I mean, we already mentioned it quite a bit here, but it's been a struggle, to say the least, for this Pittsburgh defense in terms of especially stopping the pass. And, Indianapolis comes in. Daniel Jones, I mean, just a complete revitalization year for him. And this Colts passing offense, they have been very, very good on pretty much every category. So what's kind of been your thoughts, man, on Daniel Jones this year and just this Colts passing offense in general?
I mean, me, like just about everybody else around the league who covers football, probably didn't expect this from Indianapolis. I brought in my buddy Jake Arthur, who covers the Colts for Roundtable, and we were talking after the announcement was made by Shane Steichen that Daniel Jones was going to be the starter. We're like, all right, well, is this basically just a wasted season? Like, are they just kind of packing it in and seeing what 2026 has in terms of quarterbacks? Now they're sitting at 7-1, and I wrote this for Sporting News a couple weeks ago. I think that the Colts right now are the most fascinating team of the 21st century, simply because, they're putting up historical offensive numbers that would rank, top 5 in, since 2000. But when you look at the other teams that are in that conversation, it's the Brady Patriots, the Mahomes Chiefs, the Rodgers Packers. The Colts are doing it with Daniel Jones, and that's no disrespect to Daniel Jones. But the things that they're doing with him compared to, other teams that, it's expected to do. Tom Brady's expected to do historic things. Patrick Mahomes is expected to do historic things. No one was expecting this from the Colts because of who their quarterback is. So the fact that they're able to do that with Daniel Jones, it's a credit to him for making things work and finding a system that really suits his need. We've seen that a lot over the past few years where, Geno Smith had a resurrection in Seattle, Sam Darnold in Minnesota, Baker in Tampa. This is just, another one of those examples that if you're not one of the, the Mount Rushmore guys right now of the 4 best in the NFL or, the 5 to 10 best in the NFL, situations matter. And if you're not in the right situation, you're going to look a lot worse than what you are. If you're in the right situation, you might look a little bit better than what you are. I think Daniel Jones has found the perfect situation with Shane Steichen where he's not asked to do I shouldn't say he's not asked to do a whole lot because that kind of diminishes him. He's not asked to be Superman. In terms of, leading this offense. So he's doing what's asked of him. He's doing it well. He's protecting the ball. And the Colts offense is one of the most dynamic, not just in the NFL right now, but literally over the last 25 years, numbers, metrics, whatever you want to look at, they are one of the hardest to stop, one of the most dynamic over that span. So credit to him for that. Credit to Shane Steichen and all the weapons on offense. But, Daniel Jones obviously found the right situation, and right now he's thriving.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely found the right situation. It just feels like him and Steichen are just locked in mano y mano. It's like they just know what each other wants and they're executing it to perfection. And then obviously when we talk about Daniel Jones and how surprising he is, and then obviously the one guy that's probably been getting talked about more than anyone else on the Colts so far this year, Jonathan Taylor. And obviously what he's been doing this year, front runner for offensive player of the year and even sixth best odds as it currently sits for MVP as it currently sits as well. I mean, we've been very rarely seeing a running back doing what he's doing right now, at least recently, with 15 touchdowns on the year. Now, I mean, I will say this, Cameron Hayward has been one of the few guys for the Steelers, or even just in general, that's found a way to be able to, help slow down the Colts rushing attack in the last few years. Cause, Hayward's just such an absolute beast in the middle. I mean, I've seen reps this week, a lot of previous matchups with Quentin Nelson and Cameron Hayward. And half the time Hayward's just moving Nelson back like as if it's nothing. And that's insane to do, especially for, obviously we know how good Nelson is. And honestly, I think he's playing better this year than he ever has in his career, which is crazy to say. How do you feel about Jonathan Taylor in this rushing attack? Do you feel that your defensive line, your front seven matches up well with that? Or do you think that this could just be another masterclass game for Jonathan Taylor that we're so accustomed to seeing this year?
I mean, I worry about that just because, the Bengals entered week 7, as the worst running team in the NFL. They were averaging less than 60 yards a carry. They put up over 140 yards on the Steelers defense running the ball. So, you can't take anybody lightly, much less, the probable offensive player of the year in Jonathan Taylor, who's having, one of the better running seasons in recent memory. So that worries me just because the Steelers also have an issue when it comes to tackling, like constant missed tackles. And it's very frustrating to watch where, all right, yeah, they could be in the right spot, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you can't bring the guy down. So right. I do worry about that. The Colts offensive line's very good as well. So, when you look at what the Steelers have, like, yeah, Cam Hayward's there and that's great. He also hasn't been all that great this year, if I'm being perfectly honest. When you look at what he did last year, which was a high bar to ever top, and he was never going to top it because he was tremendous last year. But, the lack of splash plays, the lack of impact plays have been certainly noticeable. But, rookie Derek Harmon has been quietly very good. Keanu Benton, when he's not lined up at nose, has been pretty good. But the Steelers as a whole, when it comes to stopping the run, like it's been a struggle all year. They slowed down Josh Jacobs for the most part last week. That wasn't really the issue when it came to the defense. The issue with the defense last week was they can't tackle. They got beaten over the top multiple times. And the same thing that the Bengals did, I would assume Shane Steichen's going to see because it's been 2 weeks now where, all right, yeah, you take, quick 3-step drop, get the ball out quickly. Guys are going to be open. You just let them make plays after the catch because Steelers play largely a cover 3 drop where there's space open underneath, and their whole thing is, all right, keep them in front of you, and wherever the ball goes, bring them down before big yards are gained. That's great and all, unless you can't tackle, which the Steelers have had trouble doing. So I do worry about all of that. And when it comes to Jonathan Taylor with the ball in his hands against a defense that struggles tackling, yeah, that certainly worries me a good bit. And if they have those same struggles that they had against Cincinnati and Green Bay, then it's going to be another long day, and they're going to be staring 4-4 in the face.
I'm curious, just staying with that Pittsburgh defense, we didn't really mention, I'm kind of curious from your perspective because you look at the stats against the pass, obviously it hasn't been pretty this year. What has been the biggest way that teams have attacked this Pittsburgh defense? What has gone well for these teams? What is Pittsburgh really struggling in when it comes to stopping the pass? So Like, and then within that, then who do you think the Colts can be looking for to potentially target that weakness?
I mean, I'm going to be looking at Alec Pierce props this week because consistently the Steelers get beaten over the top. It was a problem week 1 against the Jets. Garrett Wilson had a long touchdown beating Darius Slay. The Seahawks ran the exact same concept the next week that the Jets did, where it's condensed split, intermediate crossers against cover 1, where the deep safety has to choose where he's going to go. If he goes the wrong way, there's going to be at least one guy open. And that killed the Steelers in back-to-back weeks. So we saw last week too. Christian Watson had a nice deep catch because Juan Thornhill wasn't in the right spot. Consistently, Pittsburgh just gets beaten over the top a lot. And when they're not getting beaten over the top, they kept the lid on the deep passing game for the most part against the Bengals. But Joe Flacco just sat there and spammed slants to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And for whatever reason, they couldn't figure out how to stop it. On their final drive, Jamar Chase had his 16th catch of the day. And if you look at like the freeze frame of the all-22, there's no one within the vicinity of Jamar Chase on target number 23 of the game. So like when the scheme is that bad and that predictable, then yeah, you don't have to take chances over the top. And I think that that's probably where the Colts are going to lean for the most part is, all right, we'll get Daniel Jones, have him get the ball out quickly to Pittman and Downs and Tyler Warren. And then look, eventually they might start creeping up to take that away. And that's when you look downfield. And if Alec Pierce is going to be in a one-on-one situation, I mean, he's one of the best deep ball receivers in football. You're going to try to take advantage of that. So there's a lot of ways that the Colts can beat the Steelers this week. And they certainly have the matchup advantage in a lot of spots, specifically their offense against Pittsburgh's defense. And facing Shane Steichen, a guy who has dominated Mike Tomlin in recent memory, that certainly worries me. So there's a lot of ways that they can take advantage of the Steelers through the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, if Alec Pierce isn't leading the NFL in yards per catch this season, he's pretty dang close. And then, like you said, yeah, those possession guys that can just get those slants and those in routes, that's Pittman and Downs all over it. And then, if you let the linebackers seep in, then Tyler Warren's just going to go out on a drag on from being lined up at the fullback position and, get those 40-yard plays. It's been the persona of that all year. It's so weird. We have talked about the Pittsburgh defense now for about 10 minutes, and we have yet to talk about TJ Watt, which is very strange to talk about because, again, TJ Watt, I mean, throughout most of his career, been widely renowned as one of the best, if not the best edge rusher in all of the NFL. And so far this year, I mean, what everybody's saying, he's on pace to have, quite possibly his worst season since his rookie year. I mean, from a sack number right now, if he stays at the projection he's at, he's only going to get 8.5, 9 sacks. And, 8.5, 9 sacks doesn't sound terrible, but for a guy that's getting paid $40 million a year, that's terrible. So what is it? What's been going on with TJ Watt this year, man? Why is he looked so not able to make as much of an impact as before?
Yeah, it's frustrating because when you pay a guy that much money, you expect more results. And that was the risk when they did that, is that TJ is already, past his prime. He's 31 now. A guy who is at that age, at that position, is never going to be, putting up 20 sacks again. At least it's pretty rare or, lofty expectations to expect that. Right now, Nick Herbig's the best edge rusher on the team. And that's frustrating because he had a massive game against Cleveland where he had 2 sacks, or 2.5 sacks, excuse me. And then over the last 2 weeks combined, he's played 49 snaps. He only played 20 snaps against the Packers. And, that's a bigger conversation of Mike Tomlin plays the people who are making the most money. Alex Highsmith's in the midst of a big contract, but he's largely a guy who's on a milk carton every week who does nothing. It's very frustrating from that perspective where the best players aren't always on the field for the Steelers. So the biggest issue, I think, with Watt's lack of production, comes back to what we've already talked about. Teams are figuring out that if you get the ball out quickly, you neutralize the pass rush and you take away any sort of risk downfield because the shallow part of the field is usually pretty open when you play the Steelers. So that takes away a lot of what Watt can do when the ball's getting out in, less than 2.5 seconds. There's only so much that he can do. with that. So it's not all on him, but he certainly hasn't had a great season individually. And again, I fully expect Shane Steichen to look at that and say, all right, if we can take TJ Watt basically out of the game, then, we're going to do that. So teams are really, it's becoming a league wide thing now, not just an AFC North thing where, the Bengals will see it and take advantage of it. The Packers did a lot of the same things that Cincinnati did. And if Indianapolis does a lot of those same things and it works again, then I really don't know what else to say when talking about this team, because it's very easy to see how you beat them, but they're also not adjusting to that. So the quick passing game and whatnot has largely neutralized TJ, but at the same time, he hasn't been the dominant TJ Watt that we've come to know. But again, he's over age 30. Giving him that contract was a massive risk to begin with, and we're seeing the repercussions of that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I guess I'm curious for you, Jarrett, and I appreciate your time and coming on here.
Yeah.
What do you think are going to be kind of some of the marquee matchups in this game? Like, you think this is going to dictate one way or another what is the outcome in this game? What do you think are some of the biggest ones for you?
I think that matchup of, I don't even know if it's a matchup necessarily. I think it's, will the Steelers adjust? Because I fully am prepared for the Colts to have like a nice first half where offensively they're in rhythm, very efficient, getting the ball out quickly. Are they going to adjust? Are they going to fix what's been wrong over the last 2 weeks? And will they make life a little bit harder for Daniel Jones, taking away the shallow stuff, which will open up things for the pass rush? Or are they just going to be stuck in their ways and, not admit that there's a problem and just get carved up? So I think the matchup that I'm really looking at for Pittsburgh is within themselves. It's pretty much, Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin versus Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin, or really Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin against their own offense. Because the offense, I think, is going to have a nice day. The offense has been playing really well. In terms of individual matchups, tight ends usually eat against the Steelers. So I think Tyler Warren, that's the last guy that they want to see right now. I mean, as a Penn State guy, I love Tyler Warren. So he already one of the best tight ends in football. Looking at him against Cole Holcomb, Peyton Wilson, I think that's going to be the predominant two matchups. Patrick Queen's going to usually be that guy who is sent in on the run rather than doing too much of the coverage duties. So that's the one I'm certainly looking at. Whatever safety is also going to be put on Tyler Warren. They just acquired Kyle Duggar from the New England Patriots. We'll see how much he plays. But the matchup of whoever's on Tyler Warren, that's something that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to.
All right. Well, I guess the last thing we can do here is score predictions. So why don't you give us your score prediction for this game?
Under no circumstance should the Colts lose this game, and like matchup wise, the Steelers are outmatched everywhere. Basically, I would say except quarterback. Daniel Jones is playing great, but I would still take Aaron over him. So the Steelers shouldn't win this game. As a Steelers fan, I've seen them win these games before, though. So like very hesitantly, I'll pick them to win. I think it'll be a high scoring game. I'll say 30-27.
Okay, Cody, you're up.
Yeah, I'm going to say 35-28. I do think I agree with you. It's going to be a high scoring game. I do think it'll be closer than a lot of people, say, but I just can't get past, man, just this Colts offense and what they're doing against a very vulnerable Steelers defense. I just feel like the Colts are going to be able to do whatever they want in this game. If they get Jalen Jones back in this game, who he's not played since week 1, and this is his second full week of practice. So if he comes back, I think that'll certainly give their secondary the boost they've needed in certain ways. While I do think Pittsburgh will still, be able to do stuff, I think Indy will just get a few more stops than Pittsburgh will in this game. And I think their offense has just been so consistently good in both the run and pass game that I think they're going to dominate the time of possession in this game if they really want to. It's funny, Jarrett, one of the problems the Colts have had at times has been they've just scored too quickly, and then their defense just gets tired.
Right.
And so it's just kind of funny. So I'm hopeful that they can do that, and if they rely on Jonathan Taylor and they can continue to do what they've done, I think they'll win this one. But again, Pittsburgh's a hard place to win, man. So I do think it's going to be a dogfight. I really do. But I'm going to go Indy here just to keep on rolling. And I think some of the issues Pittsburgh has defensively are a little bit worse than what the Colts have, even though the Colts have had their issues for sure. I think that's why I think that's going to give the Colts the edge here.
I think somebody said, Cody, to your point, that I think somebody said that the average time for a Colts scoring drive has been like under 5 minutes, which I mean, again, is crazy. But I mean, that's been the case this year. It's not just been that the Colts get, one big play and then there's 3 yards here, 3 yards here, 4 yards here. No, it's been like 8 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards, 20 yards, 10 yards. It goes fast for the Colts offense this year. So no doubt they go really fast. I'm going to say that neither one of these teams hits 30 in this game. I do think the Colts will win it. I say 28-24 in this one. I think somehow the Steelers will find a way to get 1 or 2 more drives that they'll get a stop out of the Colts. But I do think the Colts offensively are just a little too good right now for the Steelers. So I'll go 28-24 on that one.
Awesome. Well, I don't know what you're thinking, Derek. That's crazy. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game.
It's crazy that we have to debate on whether or not the Colts are going to get 30 points or not. I mean, that's we were we would be, if we said that if the Bengals had Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, we know they have to score 35 a game just to be able to win. But this is the Colts we're talking about here. And yet the Colts are scoring 32 points a game like it's nothing now.
Right. Well, Jarrett, I really do appreciate you coming on. It's been a ton of fun. Good luck on Sunday, but we always tell our guests not too much luck because we like to see Colts victories. But really do appreciate you, man, once again. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and everything that you do?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL. Host Believe in Steelers as well as the Pump Fake, my national pod on the Believe Network. Cover the NFL for the sporting news, so you can read everything over there as well from me. And yeah, like I said, if you want to keep up with me, though, best way to do it, follow me at JBaileyNFL on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, really do appreciate it. Once again, we'll have to do it again soon. And guys, shout out to FanDuel again for being our sponsor for the 2025 season. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.